And joining me now to discuss this is a Global Affairs Analyst, Debae Uwadiae. Good to have you join us.
Thank you.
You must have listened to the announcement made by U.S. President Joe Biden yesterday when he announced a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. That announcement was corroborated by a statement coming from the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister of Israel, as well as that of Hamas. What was your immediate reaction when you heard of the ceasefire?
It was a relief in the sense that that part of the world, was boiling again, and that it has to be contained. And so the last 11 days had been, a time of restlessness, not just there, but the rest of the world. But it was a relief, especially for the world, because everybody seemed to have some kind of interest, in that part of the world.
There are lots of people who say that this ceasefire is going to last, while some others are skeptical about the ability of Hamas or rulers or leaders in Israel to hold on to a ceasefire. What's your take on that? How long do you think that this ceasefire will last?
Hopefully, like those that are involved, they are not just going to sit down. America, Egypt, they are not just going to sit down and expect Israel and Palestine to come together and just say, oh, the ceasefire will last. But what we are expecting is that the discussion will continue, and things that are necessary to be done will be done. We know that this is not just something that began yesterday. It's a long time. It began a long time ago, and they've been trying to live together, but over time there's been issues, and those issues are the issues that must be looked into by both sides. What is the position of Israel? What is the position of Palestine? So how can they harmonize and live together so that there will be peace in that part of the world? It's not something that you just leave alone, to them, because most of them now, most of the Israelites, the Palestinians have dual citizenship or multiple citizenship, and so they have representation from different parts of the world, and so now they can come together, using those privileges to say, okay, how can we live together in this territory, that belong to us, both sides. And so that is how peace can come about. It's not going to come about just leaving the two nations, so to say, to settle it, between themselves. We need, the United Nations, other countries that are involved in the peace. Egypt and the United States need to be commended for this and for all they've been doing to ensure that there is peace in that part of the region.
You have spoken so much on peace in that region and the need for continuous peace in that region. But let's talk about stability. We've seen the devastation in Gaza, and a lot of world leaders are now pledging to help rebuild Gaza. The President Joe Biden also made commitment to that, but he said he was not going to give the money to Hamas because it has been designated a terrorist group in the U.S. The money will go to Palestinian authorities led by President Mahmoud Abbas. But the problem with that is that President Mahmoud Abbas do not have any significant control in Gaza. Where does that leave the rebuilding plan?
Well, that's where the people of the Palestine will have to come together too, to say, okay, how can we use these resources that that are being given to us to rebuild? How can we use it? They know that it cannot be given to Hamas that control the Gaza Strip, but I believe Prime Minister Abbas Abbas, we come up with programs that we ensure that the resources are well distributed so that it can take care of things that have been damaged, things that have been destroyed, people that have lost their loved ones, how to compensate them, and also how to see that the economy, is brought back and is allowed to work again. Because those are the things that are necessary at this time. Everybody needs to work together. The people of Palestine need to work together and see how they can put these resources together and see how they can make the place work again. It's such it's sad that it happens, and it's always been happening, and it's possible it will happen again. But how do we see that even if it has to happen again, it doesn't get to this level, of damage to both sides?
I'm talking about the fact that ensuring that it doesn't happen again. President Biden talked about his approach to diplomacy, which he called the quiet and relentless approach to diplomacy. Do you see that being effective going forward?
That is what we need, at this time. We don't have choice, because peace in any part of the world is peace, in the other part of the world. If there's no peace in one part of the world, it affects every part of the world. We know how it happens. By the time things like that continue, refugee issues will come in, and so everybody we have to pay the price. So diplomacy is what is needed at this time. Everybody comes together. What do we do? How do we move forward? This is not an issue that started today. This issue started a long time ago. How do we move forward? How do we live together? Like the president of the United States said, he said the two nations should be able to live together, safely and securely, and enjoy equal measures of freedom, prosperity, and democracy. So these are the things that these are the basis that should be discussed. How do we achieve that? And so you can only achieve it through diplomacy. You can't achieve it, through one part, saying that no, this is what I want, and the other part, saying this is what I want too. So they have to be diplomatic about it. How do we do it? And so that is how diplomacy can be very effective, at this time of that the two nations are going through.
Everyone seems to agree, or most global leaders agree, that a two-state solution is the only solution, but no one seems to be taking any concrete step, or no one seems to know how to take concrete steps to ensuring that that happens. What do you think is the way to make that happen, especially now that they can take advantage of the ceasefire and ongoing negotiations?
That is the challenge to the world. That is the challenge for those of us that have visited that part of the world. That is the challenge. How can you create the two nations to coexist? That is the challenge. How can you create two nations that are together? That is the challenge. So the two nations too must come together to say this is how we can create it, differently from what had been known, in the past about territories, about geographical, territories, dividing nations for you to say, oh, this is Nigeria, this is Benin, this is Togo. These two people, they live together. They live together. It's like one street separating the other street. And so how do we live together? This is the challenge to the world. And so I'll leave it to the United Nations. I leave it to the two nations to come up with. It's a big challenge. People need to visit that part of the world to see how things go there. But I believe it can be done. It can be done. It's just, like I said, diplomacy and other ways to do it. It can be done. If you talk to them, they tell you historically they are cousins, for people who do business or who go there, they will tell you historically they are cousins. So if they are cousins historically, they can live together.
Senator Bernie Sanders introduced a resolution blocking the sale of about $735 million US dollars of weapons to Israel. Should that be happening now? Because the president has said, look, Israel has the right to defend itself. Should the United States be blocking sale of weapons to Israel?
Well, that is for the United States to decide. Everybody has his own right to, to speech, to expression. How do you see that environment? What is Israel going through that require them to have certain things, and how do they defend themselves too, in that environment? What situation are they? So those are the things, and that people need to look at. People need to look into what situation are they going through right now. If they can't defend themselves, what happens? And the Palestinians too, what situation are they going through right now? How do they exist and be able to fend for themselves, especially economically? So those are the things that people must look at, and not say, do you deny the Palestinians this, or do you deny the Israelites this other thing? People need to look at the situation and say, how do we resolve, this crisis, so that these two people can live together, and not that should we deny them this, should we deny them the other, So for now, I believe the United States the government of the United States knows what to do. The other people that are involved, they know what to do. So I would not, I would leave it to to those countries to decide.
Global Affairs Analyst Debae Uwadiae, thanks for talking to us. We see that a lot of people have been trying to reach you via phone, so we'll allow you go now and take the calls. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
All right.